Welcome into Phil's Tax Hacks and Other Retirement Facts with CPA and personal financial specialist Phil Putney. Now let's get rolling with today's show.
Hey everybody, back for another edition of Phil's Tax Hacks and Other Retirement Facts on location still. Don't get too excited. We're not taking like an entire month off for 2 weeks.
That's right.
We do two of these at a time. So as you probably
just happened to fall around the 4th, so we're going ahead and doing the recording.
And I see the dog. The dog's out there behind you doing.
Oh yeah, you'll probably hear her now. So she loves the water. She's out there chasing the stick in the water with the kids. So
nice. That's all. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about.
Right.
Mine's walking around down here below me, but she's too short. You won't see her. So yeah, we're on location again. Well, I'm on the back porch out by the pool. And where you at again, Phil?
We're up in Traverse City. So This is Cedar Lake.
Nice. Cedar Lake. Oh yeah. I haven't been there in a long time. Yeah. So you got the camper out and got the kids.
Yep. Camper's in the backyard. So we bring our own quarters up to mom and dad's because everyone comes up for the 4th, and the house gets a little full. So
Gotcha. Well, we won't keep you too long. We're going to talk about what kind of retirement we're living for. I thought it was kind of appropriate considering where you're at and the cool vibes that you got going on and the chill vibes that we're having today here on the show. So I saw one of the kids go by earlier. I saw the dog go by. So spending more time with family, that's my first one on the docket. It works very well for where you're at, obviously. When we were talking a couple of weeks ago, trying to plan out what we were going to do, were we just taking it off? We were going to hop on and spend a few minutes chatting. You were like, no, let's go ahead and talk about it because it's the whole point. Is that I'm on vacation, but at the same time, this is what retirement's meant to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so spending time with family, a lot of times that is a key. If you've got kids that have kind of migrated all over the country, so maybe now you can spend more time with them, take time off and travel around, but there's obviously a budget that needs to be built around that, especially if you're going to be flying or however you travel to them, or, maybe you get a motorhome and, drive around or, fifth wheel, whatever your mode of transportation is, and drive it around to see the grandkids. So yeah, spending time with family is often key because now you don't have that focus of work anymore, and you can come back and spend time with the kids and grandkids at that point. Maybe a summer cabin, or place on the lake that they can make that family focus that the kids and the grandkids can come back to. So
yeah. And it's not cheap. I mean, retirement is not cheap, folks. We've talked about this quite a bit. We're going to want to buy stuff. We're going to want to do some things, so on and so forth, especially if you've gotten comfortable with, for those folks who want to spend their retirement money, then there's things that are going to cost you. Phil, you guys took the fifth wheel up there. A lot of folks have been doing that the past couple of, year and a half, and it's not cheap.
No, it's not. I mean, you got to have the truck to pull it and the gas and, everything else that goes with just maintenance of it. So yeah, it's again, something you have to, not to get into the budget word, but, have a spending plan, understand what those costs are versus just diving into it.
Right.
To see, can I really afford it? Can I put that together? Does it work?
So then how do we go about allotting stuff for that? Is that something that you do when you're going through with your clients and you're helping them structure things out as we're getting closer or into retirement, saying, okay, we're going to pull from these various buckets for the fun money or for the, whatever? Like, how do you go about doing some of that?
Yeah, we always start with building, kind of that base level spending. What does it cost you a month just to live? If not all the extra fun stuff and things like that, but just maintaining your house, utilities, groceries, clothing, all the different things, back to, I hate to use the budgeting word again, but, back to that understanding. And it doesn't have to be the specifics of it, right? You don't have to know, this is how much I spend on this and track every penny, but just know roughly, okay, it's, my net spendable income that I need just to live is 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 10,000, I don't know, whatever it is for you, and then that base level you have to have. And then all the fun stuff kind of get added on top of that. So then that's the travel and, vacations or whatever else, that you want to build on top of it. So
are we talking bucketizing, sort of like we would think about with our income streams, where we've got our now money and then we've got our later money?
Yeah. And so once we understand, well, here's how much I need, then we position assets according to those buckets. Yeah. So we'll position money in that now, soon, and later bucket concept. Now is money in the bank. That's just emergency, but the soon money is money we're going to be spending in the next 10 to 11 years. So especially in those early years, those go-go years, so to speak, if you're
Right.
doing a lot of travel, or I've got one client that, or several clients actually, that golf is kind of their thing. They love it, and now that they're retired, they can golf more, but golf's expensive. It's not cheap to have clubs and the fees and everything else that it costs to maybe be part of a club or whatever it is. So
Yeah. Well, okay. So big travel plans, right? That's
yep,
coming back up on the radar for people now. At the time we're taping this, I believe at the end of this month, Europe is starting to relax some of their stuff, and they're saying they're going to be fully open by September.
right.
We're ahead of the world, I think, in many aspects as far as opening back up and all those various different things. And clearly in vaccinations, we're way ahead of most of the world. But
Yep.
people are going to want to start traveling more, and you got to
Yeah. This year has been crazy for that because things have started opening up, and all of a sudden, everyone's wanting to get out of the house. They've been locked up for a year, 18 months, restricted in what they could do.
right.
Had a lot of clients that retired during this time that had big travel plans, and unfortunately they all got postponed. So yeah, that's all starting to pick back up again, but has to be built in. Do you have the funds set aside to cover that?
Right. So if you did not, okay, so let's just say, Phil, because of what's happened, these rare circumstances that we found ourselves in, if you maybe didn't a lot of money
There you go.
to,
That's a tongue twister.
to travel, and now you want to because you have felt so locked down or pulled back, it doesn't mean you can't, right? It's just a matter of working with your advisor and saying, okay, how do we go ahead? Where do we create this from? And how do we do this smart so that I'm
Right.
not hurting myself another couple of years down the road?
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of people are hesitant, maybe even to put together, quote unquote, a plan, because they think, well, I'm locked into this. I don't want to put it down on paper and this is what I have to do. And I'm sorry, the plan doesn't say you can travel this year, so you're not going to travel.
Right.
I mean, if that's the kind of plan that you've developed or been at least thinking that that's what the plan is, then, or you have, then that to me isn't really a plan. I mean, a plan is, I always liken it to my clients of, taking this trip around the U.S. You're going to travel for 3 months and you're going to see all whatever it is you wanted to see, the national parks, let's say, or whatever it happens to be. You're going to map it out to make sure you can, how long does it take to get to here and make your reservations and how much is it going to cost? You're going to put it all together. That's your plan. But I guarantee you, as you start on that trip, things are going to change. You're going to have a flat tire. You're going to find the big ball of yarn that, I didn't realize that was here. I want to take a day and see that, or whatever it is, that wasn't in your plan, but now you want to do it. It's just a matter of having flexibility and saying, okay, can I do it? I can do that, but now I'm going to have to maybe restructure some other things or extend the trip or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah. Yeah, you can tell we've all watched Vacation at some point back in the day, and it's really, it's clearly a lampooning, right, of what travel and vacation is like, but it's not that far off. They took it to extremes, but there's always something that's going to go wrong. You're going to lose some luggage, or you're not going to have great Aunt Edna die probably on you, but some things of that nature are going to happen. So you got to get comfortable with the fact that in retirement, money's going to come in and out, and you're going to have these different things changing. But to your point, and Phil, is it maybe things like annuities that get people feeling like, oh, I'm locked into something and I can't change it? And I'm not saying annuities are bad. They can be a useful tool. But because they do have contracts, sometimes maybe people feel like, oh, if I work with an advisor, that's exactly, I'm going to be in a contract for however many years. And that's not really what that's all about.
No, I mean, an annuity, if you're using it, is back to, we've had a discussion before about having guaranteed income. That really, to me, is potentially where annuity fits. I mean, we'll use them in a different fashion sometimes in our soon bucket because they're safe and secure. We can grow them typically, at least with inflation, historically at least.
Right.
But yet the money is principally protected from market volatility. But there's pros and cons. It's, you do give up certain things when you use more guaranteed or fixed type income like that.
Right.
But it's a matter of just understanding that, and making sure your plan has the flexibility again in it. If you have everything tied up in annuities or something of that nature where you're locked in, you've lost some flexibility because whatever that monthly check or, checks that come in are, that's what you got.
Right.
There's no more. fortunately no less, but that is kind of what you're locked into. So now you're back to that budget, so to speak, of okay, this is what I have to spend, and save from that to plan for other things.
Well, and so an annuity is not a retirement plan, right? I mean, I think that's another
Absolutely not.
sticking
Yeah.
point. And the only reason I'm bringing that up is because you mentioned sometimes people feel like, oh, I'm stuck in this. If I go get a plan, I'm stuck in some sort of a thing I can't change.
You
And,
can't
and now
change,
I want to
right.
go to the lake or I want to buy an RV or whatever. And that doesn't, working with an advisor doesn't mean that you can't do anything you want. It just, they're there to help you, design and figure out when can I get it, how can I get it, and what's the best place and the optimal time to do it.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, our process in doing that is we start with a plan. Our plans don't talk about investments. They don't talk about annuities or stocks, bonds, mutual funds, any of that. I mean, it's simply understanding the cash flow, understanding, okay, well, we've got Social Security and we know historically it's averaged, X for year for cost of living. So let's build that in.
Right.
What has inflation been? So let's build in inflation cost on your base level of spending, build the mortgage in, all the other pieces, and running that math out to see how does it work. Look at taxes. If I do nothing and leave assets structured how they are, everything's in, let's say, IRAs and 401ks, what does my tax bill look like?
Mm-hmm.
How do we manipulate it? So to me, it's that blueprint to start with to say, okay, how do we best tweak those pieces first? And once we understand, well, here's my cash flow, this is what I need. Now we can take the assets you've accumulated and make them work according to the plan.
Yeah.
So it's, to me, kind of a blueprint, so to speak, if you want to think of it that way. You're building the house, there's the blueprint first. Let's make it be exactly what you want. Then we come back and buy the material, put your assets in place to make that happen. So
right, and hopefully we don't buy the material at 300%.
Well, yeah. If you're thinking about doing that right now, probably not a good time, because you better have built that into the budget, which I guarantee no one did. So
well, we were just talking about what kind of, right, in general, we were talking about what kind of lifestyle you wanted in retirement, or just, what does retirement mean to you? If you want to be out at the lake, like Phil is today when we're taping this episode, or out on the deck. I put this deck on my house last year, and it wasn't cheap. Even before the inflation of COVID, it still wasn't cheap to get it done. But I wanted to get some of these things done now. I'll be 50 in September. As I'm getting closer and closer to retirement, I've been working on the pool area in the background, getting that all set for how I want things to be. And it's the same kind of thing as strategizing for retirement. And maybe whether it's travel, whether it's time with the kids, whether it's charity, whatever it is, a little bit of structure and a little bit of pre-planning goes a mighty long way.
Right. Absolutely. It definitely does. And especially, I mean, we mentioned charity. If that is something that you want to build into your plan, I'd recommend you look at it ahead of time. A lot of times people will look at having charity kind of in the will, or their trust at the end, which, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
Sure.
But if you're charitably minded, there are a lot of ways to restructure assets and take advantage of some tax benefits today. So if charitable giving is part of your plan overall, make sure you're talking with an advisor that understands the tax side of that and how to structure it properly.
Yeah, a lot of times we'll have conversations around something called a QCD for those who are looking to do something from their 401ks because of, or IRAs because of the required minimum distributions. That's a great avenue to pursue, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, so having charitable qualified distributions, the QCDs are a great avenue if you don't need the required minimum distribution. So it's a way for you to satisfy that, but then have the money go to a charity.
Right.
Could be if you do have a regular giving plan for charities, or even wanted to give a large sum at some point, a lot of times we'll help structure that with maybe a donor advised fund, get a significant tax deduction in 1 year, so that then we can offset that with Roth conversions and remix your tax assets at that point, help blend you more into the tax-free bucket. So charity, there's a lot of points to be considered when you look at charity, and if it's part of your plan, again, how to build it in most efficiently. I mean, if charity is something you want to be part of, that you shouldn't let the tax dog, so to speak, wag that tail and be the reason you're doing it, but there are some definite tax benefits to take advantage of.
And I got to say, the timing of that particular statement was great.
Yeah, I saw the dog run in the background.
The dog went by.
I planned it that way. So.
You planned. There you go. Well, it sounds like everybody's starting to get a little more ramped up. I know the morning's wearing on, so I'll let you go this week. I just wanted to talk a little bit more about, the ideas and the feeling about retirement and really what it's all about. And one of the reasons we chose to do some of this stuff on location, and maybe we'll do some more of this, is because I think it helps solidify the point that there's, that's more than just working or more than just kind of sitting around the house or sitting on the front porch, even though I'm on the back porch, for retirement. Finding what's important to you and working through that is a key part of the planning process. It's a key part of the retirement advisor and what you do, Phil. It's how you help people get through it.
Absolutely. That is where it all starts, is putting that plan together, understanding those moving pieces first, and then from there helping clients walk through retirement, because it's not just a once and done. It's a now that we've got it in place, let's maintain that throughout retirement. So.
They help you get the idea and the things laid out, and then you start doing the X's and O's, and you make all the puzzle pieces start to fit. And that's what an advisor brings to the table. And with that, we're going to sign off this week and let Phil get back out there and play with the kids and the grandkids. So we will see you next time here on Phil's Tax Hacks and Other Retirement Facts. We appreciate you as always. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you like to use. You can find the information in the show note details or on the screen as well. And you can reach out to Phil anytime. He's on vacation, but you can still reach out to him anytime. So we'll see you next time, Phil. Go have some fun, my friend.
All right, will do. Take care, Mark.
See you next time here on the podcast. This has been Phil's Tax Hacks and Other Retirement Facts.
Investment advisory services offered through AFS Wealth Management. The content of this program is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. Investments and/or investment strategies involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. There is no assurance that any investment strategy will achieve its objectives.